You know, ladies and gentlemen, my 42 years covering Major League Baseball as one of the longest standing sports reporters in New Brunswick, I never thought I'd say something like this, but here it goes. According to CBC and Associated Press, Major League Baseball has determined to have reinstated Pete Rose and Shoeless Joe Jackson from longtime ban, making them eligible for the Hall of Fame. MLB boss Rob Manfred changed the league's policy on permanent ineligibility, saying bans would expire at death. Now, again, Rose and Shoeless Joe Jackson have been reinstated, making them both eligible for the Hall of Fame after their careers were tarnished by sports gambling scandals. Rose's permanent ban was lifted 8 months after his death. It came a day before the Reds will honor baseball career hits later with Pete Rose Night. Manfred announced Tuesday that he was changing the league's policy on permanent ineligibility, saying bans would expire at death. Several other players will also have their status changed by the ruling, including all members of the 1919 Chicago Black Sox, or White Sox, former Phillies president Williams D. Cox, and former New York Giants outfielder Benny Koff. Under the Hall of Fame curling rules, the earliest Rose or Jackson could be inducted would be in 2028, in 3 years. Now, Rose agreed to a permanent ban by R.A. Backler Giamatti, Paul Giamatti's father, on August 23, 1989, following an investigation commissioned by MLB, concluded Rose repeatedly bet on the Reds as a player and manager of the team from 85-87, a violation of long-standing MLB rule. Now, he was traded by the Expos to the Reds for Tom Lawless, and eventually built up his numbers towards breaking like the hit record. He first applied reinstatement in September 97, but Commissioner Bud Selig never ruled out the requests. Manfred in 2015 rejected a petition for reinstatement, saying Rose has not presented credible evidence of a reconfigured life. Now, Rose died September 30th at age 83, and a new petition was filed January 8 by Jeffrey Lenkov, a lawyer who represented Rose. Lenkov and Rose's daughter Fawn had met with Manfred on December 17th. Now, Rose's supporters have included U.S. President Donald Trump, who has said he intends to pardon Rose posthumously. No. You can't pardon Rose for this because most of his crimes were not criminal in nature. Manfred discussed Rose with Trump when the pair met in April, but he hasn't disclosed specifics of their conversation. Now, in a letter to Lenkov, Manfred wrote, "In my view, a determination must be made regarding how the phrase permanently ineligible should be interpreted in light of the purposes and policies behind Rule 21, which are to protect the game from individuals who pose a risk to the integrity of the sport by prohibiting the participation of such individuals, and 2, create a deterrent effect that reduces the likelihood of future violations by others. In my view, once an individual has passed away, the purposes of Rule 21 have been served. Obviously, a person no longer with us cannot represent a threat to the integrity of the game. Moreover, it's hard to conceive of a penalty that has more deterrent effect than one that lasts a lifetime with no reprieve. Therefore, I've concluded that permanent ineligibility ends upon the passing of the disciplined individual, and Rose will be removed from the permanently ineligible lists." Now, Rose was a 17-time All-Star during her playing career from 63 to 86, holding the record for hits at 42.56, games 35.62, at-bats 14,053, plate appearances 15,890, and singles 3,215. He was the 63 NL Rookie of the Year, 73 and 75 World Series MVP, not 73, 75 World Series MVP. Three-time NL batting champion. He broke the Pirate hits record of 41.91 set by Ty Cobb, who had the record for him playing 23 years from 05 to 28. Now, Jackson, the fictional version of him with Field of Dreams and 8 Man Out, was a 32 355 career hitter, was among the 8 White Sox players called the Black Sox, banned for throwing the 1919 World Series. He died in 51, but he remains one of baseball's most recognizable names, in part for his depiction by the late great Ray Liotta in the 89 movie Field of Dreams. What else needs to happen for Rose or Jackson to reach the Hall of Fame? Under a rule adopted by Hall's Board of Directors in 91, anyone on the permanently ineligible lists can't be considered for election to the Hall. Jackson was twice considered on ballots by the Baseball Writers Association of America, but received less than 1% in 36 and 1% in 1940. Now, Rowe's reinstatement occurred too late for him to be considered for the BBWAA ballot. If not on a permanently banned list, Rose would have been eligible on the ballots each from 92 to 2006. He was a write-in on 41 votes in 92 and 243 of 232 ballots over the 15 years that votes were not counted. Hall of Fame Chairman of the Board Jane Forbes Clark said in a statement that players impacted by Manfred's ruling Tuesday would be considered. The National Baseball Hall of Fame has always maintained that anyone removed from baseball's permanently ineligible lists will become eligible for Hall of Fame consideration, she noted. Major League Baseball's decision to remove deceased individuals from the permanently ineligible lists will allow for the Hall of Fame candidacy of such individuals to now be considered. Now, without the ban, both players are eligible for the Hall's Classic Baseball era, which next meets the considered players in December 2027 and considers those who have the greatest contributions to the sport were before 1980. A 10-person historical overview committee selects the 8 ballot candidates with the approval of the Hall's board, and the ballot is considered by 16 members at the winter meetings, with a 75% of higher vote needed. The committee members include Hall of Fame members, team executives, and media historians. Among the players in the 2028 class eligible for the BBWAA ballot are Albert Pujols and Yadier Molina. Now, did Trump help get Rose reinstated? Trump has said he would pardon Rose, but it's not clear what a presidential pardon for Rose would entail. Now, Rose entered guilty pleas on April 20th, 1990 to 2 counts of filing false tax returns, admitting he failed to report $354,968 U.S. during a 4-year period. He was sentenced on July 19, 1990 by U.S. District Judge S. Arthur Spiegel in Cincy to 5 months in prison. He also was fined $50,000 and ordered to perform 1,000 hours of community service as a gym teacher's assistant with inner-city youths in Cincinnati as part of a 1-year probation period. The first 3 months of the probation were to be spent at the halfway house. Rose eventually paid the IRS $366,042, which is that judgment with interest. So you're asking me, do I believe that Shoeless Joe Jackson bet on the World Series? In my personal opinion, no. Did Pete Rose bet on baseball? Yes. Is Pete Rose the greatest individual that this world ever known? No. There was questions he had inappropriate relations with females through the years, but again, you can't discount Charlie Hustle. Now, Wayne Gretzky's a traitor to Canada now because a Trump supporter. Should he be kicked out of the Hockey Hall of Fame? No. Bobby Orr, Trump supporter, kicked out of the Hockey Hall of Fame? No. Al Eagleson ripped off all these players. He was kicked out of the Hockey Hall of Fame. There's a lot of hypocrisy amongst the media and amongst these Hall of Fames because sometimes the media is not selected to get people to Hall of Fames, and sometimes they do select and they put the wrong people in. So I let the people that are more experienced at baseball make a decision. All I know when I was growing up, the Big Red Machine, all those players on the squad should be in the Hall of Fame, including Geronimo, including Concepcion, Dan Dries and Ken Griffey. Greatest team of all time. We got to find a way, ladies and gentlemen, to change it. Not just individual players, but individual teams, individual lines. Châteaumer Lafleur, he should go in. If the WWE can put people, tag teams in, and part of factions, why couldn't baseball or hockey or whatever sport do that? So let me know what you think in the comments. Ladies and gentlemen, if you like what you're doing here, we're a Major League Baseball podcast, aided by our good friends with Associated Press, Canadian Press, CBC, and all our feeder systems we generously quote for. Let us know in the like, comment, subscribe, or share. Bye.